I had a very monotonous phase in university where I'd go to all my lectures, then order Uber Eats as I was walking back to my dorm. By the time I'd be back, my food would have arrived already. Essentially, I'd just watch films in my dorm all night. So, this one weekday in the winter, my lectures finished late at like 7 p.m. I ordered McDonald's as I was walking back home. Usually I'd see the person delivering my food parked up the hill near my dorm. I was in a more rural and northern part of town, so everything was on an uphill slope. I didn't see a vehicle this time, so I guess I was early for once. I pulled out my phone and checked the map on the Uber app to see how far the driver was. The app said he was a few minutes away, so I waited. Suddenly, I heard someone whistle at me from an empty side road. It was some guy in a car. He stuck his head out and was waving me over. He said, "Picking up food." I nodded my head and started walking over to the guy. I got close enough to the point I could see him, and he started messing around with something underneath the passenger seat, which I thought was the food. The guy, who was a Hispanic-looking man, asked me my name, to which I said my name. Every driver asked me my name, so this didn't ring any alarm bells. But then the man asked me my age and if I lived here. I was taken aback by this. He noticed my expression and said something about how he wanted to definitely make sure I was the one ordering the food because of previous people claiming they hadn't received their food even though they had. Okay, I thought that was quite unfair, and I guess sympathy got the better of me. So I gave him my age and told him that I did indeed live here. I noticed he was writing something down on this notepad, and I asked him where my food was. He told me to give him a second, and that I had to wait. Once he was done, rather than giving me my food, he turned on his car, took a quick picture of me with his flash on, then drove off without saying a word. What the hell was that? I stood there, pissed off and confused. I was going to report the Uber driver, but my heart dropped when I heard my actual Uber driver pull up behind me on his motorcycle. I knew it was him because, on the Uber map, he was driving a motorcycle and not a car. I should have noticed this before if I was paying more attention. Plus, he had the blue uniform on. I walked up to him and he asked for my name and code, to which I gave him. I didn't tell him about what happened because I was too freaked out to stay outside. Nothing weird happened that night, but since then, I keep seeing suspicious things. For instance, I was walking to one of my lectures, and I saw a car on that side road just slowly idling by. I thought nothing of it and got to my lecture just fine. On my way back, however, when it was dark, I walked past that side road, but as soon as I walked past, that same car turned on and started slowly following me. Upon seeing this, I ran for it. Even when I'm in town or on a night out, I see that same car just parked, and there's some guy I can't see properly just looking in my direction. I keep seeing this car wherever I go, and I don't know if it has anything to do with what happened with the Hispanic man, but I'm scared. I feel like I'm being watched and followed wherever I go, and I don't know what to do. I want to call the police, but I don't know what to say, or if they'll even believe me. I'll update what happens in the future. There was a point in my life where I struggled to make ends meet, and everything wasn't really going my way. I lost my job for reasons I won't get into, and I started delivering food to get me back on track. At this point, I'd already delivered food for Uber Eats, so it wasn't hard to get back into it. Plus, I had the entire day to accept orders. There was one day where I'd been delivering many orders all throughout the night, and it was late, like 10 p.m., when I received an order from an address not too far away. I told myself this would be the last order for the night, and I'd go back home afterward. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was some Chinese takeaway, something small. When I got back in my car to deliver the food, it was raining outside, which solidified my decision to go home afterward. The roads were empty for the most part, so the drive only took like 10 minutes. I knew I was in a more rough part of town simply from looking at the design of the houses over here. They were all tiny and semi-dilapidated. I turned off my music and was on high alert. The house was on this dead-end street, and my heart started beating when I saw a person who I assume ordered the food standing outside the house. He was just standing with his arms crossed near the side of the house, looking in my direction. I pulled up on the side of the road, and I was already thinking of the worst-case scenario. I wasn't taking any chances, so I had 911 ready to dial in my pocket. The guy standing by the house was still in the same position, but once I got out of the car, he said, "Yo." I held up his order and waited for him to say something. I was still standing by my car at this point, and he started calling me over. This seemed too shady. I could barely see this person. They were almost shrouded in the darkness because the house wasn't lit up whatsoever. I thought I'd walk closer to the man, but not too close to the point I was face to face with him. As I got not about 10 ft away from him, I noticed he kept looking over his shoulder, but I couldn't see what he was seeing. He kept doing it, so I stopped in my tracks. As an Uber delivery driver, I need to confirm I've sent orders, and I do this by typing in the 4-digit code I'm given from people who order. So, I asked the guy what his code was, and he told me to hand him the food first. I was still at a distance, and I had to make a choice here. The guy was acting so weird, but a voice in my head kept telling me to just hand him his food. For whatever reason, I looked behind me. I was right. This was a setup. It was a car with its headlights off now parked directly behind my car, which previously wasn't there. I didn't even hear this car pull up. I was probably too fixated on the guy with his arms crossed because I was ready to dial 911. I was able to make the call through my trouser pocket, but I couldn't say anything. The guy with his arms crossed was now making his way towards me, and I ran back to my car. Just as I was running to my car, 2 guys got out of the car parked behind my one, and I got in just before they could get inside. They were both hitting my window, and the guy with his arms crossed was trying to smash my windshield with a blunt weapon. I got the hell out of there, and the police were still on the line. I told them what just went down in a panic, and they said officers would be at the house in a few minutes. I couldn't see the men in the rearview mirror anymore, and that car didn't try to follow me. I never heard back from the police, even though I was there minutes before they arrived, but my best guess is that those men were arrested. I still drove back home, but I took a completely different route, and I watched the windows for any suspicious cars, but I was in the clear. I just wish I had listened to myself earlier and just dipped when I saw that suspicious guy standing there. I used to work at Domino's after I finished high school, and I was with the company for about 4 months before I found a new job. All in all, the job wasn't anything special, but it allowed me to save up some money. We were a smaller branch that was more local, and our store was specifically for deliveries only. You could obviously order in the store, but we had no seats, so you'd have to eat somewhere else. Therefore, we'd often have to deliver pizzas outside of town. I was working the late shift one night, and my boss Andre was really stressed. We had like 6 orders at the same time, some being deliveries and some being for pickup. We received another call for like 4 margaritas, all extra large. Andre told me to quickly deliver these pizzas and to come back and help once I was done. My coworker Ben was delivering pizzas tonight, so I wasn't even meant to be on deliveries, but by the time Ben would be back, the customer would have already been waiting for a while. So, I said okay. We never have multiple people delivering pizzas, but tonight was just really busy for some reason. Plus, I liked it anyway. I hopped in my car and placed the pizzas on the passenger seat. Of course, the address was out of town, but I'd been to this area before, so I went on my way. I knew I was almost guaranteed a good tip, because whenever people order a shitload of pizza, there's always a party or something going on. I was driving for a while, and I finally approached what looked like a quiet suburban neighborhood. The house, according to my GPS, was down this long road next to the neighborhood. I drove down to the end of the road until I pulled up to a single house sort of nestled in these trees. There was a light on upstairs, so I was certain it was the correct house. It had a driveway, and I pulled up. I instantly noticed how unkempt the place was. I got out of my car, and my excitement grew when I heard music inside the house. There was definitely a party here. There were no lights on downstairs, however, and all the blinds were shut. Maybe they wanted a more private outing, perhaps. I walked up the steps leading to the front door and knocked. A chubby bald man opened the door. He looked really happy to see me and gave me a friendly, "Hey buddy," as he leaned against the door. I asked the man for margaritas, and he said yes. The man searched through his pockets looking for some cash, and I broke the silence by asking if there was a party going on, to which the man said yes. The man made a surprised face and swore he thought he had cash in his pocket. He said he'd tip me for the inconvenience and wanted me to meet some of the guests that night. He told me to follow him inside so he could give me the money, and I followed him without question because he seemed to be a normal man, and I really wanted this tip. The house was very dimly lit, and it didn't seem like a party was going on. The man shut the door behind me and locked it. We looked at each other, and he made a small quip about how he wasn't going to kill me and to relax. The room where this party was being held was to my left. The door was closed, and the music seemed to be on full blast, but I couldn't hear anyone inside. Maybe it was a smaller party. The man went into the kitchen and told me not to go into the room where the party was until he came back. He was gone for a while, and I guess curiosity got the better of me. The room was very close to the front door, so I pressed my ear up to the door, expecting to hear some people speaking, but again, no one was speaking. I wanted to prove to myself this man was just a normal dude, so I opened the door. The room was very dark but also dimly lit by something. I peeked inside for about 5 seconds, and in those 5 seconds, I saw absolutely no one. All I could make out was a table in the center of the room and the music from a speaker somewhere. The rest of the room was covered by darkness. I heard something make a noise inside the room, like someone getting up off a chair, and I shut the door. The man wasn't back yet, so I calmly unlocked the door, opened it, shut it, then ran back to my car. I peeled out of there, then saw that bald guy open the door and watched me leave. My boss wasn't happy and didn't even give a crap about what I told him. He said I should have taken the cash from the guy and that I was probably overreacting, which was unfair, because how would he know? He wasn't there. After that night, I worked at Domino's for another few weeks until I finally left. I still don't know what that bald guy's deal was, faking a party. I can only imagine what he was planning to do. It mustn't have been good because I'm sure there was someone else in that room that I couldn't see, waiting to do whatever sick thing they wanted to do.